I'm a security guard hired to protect an estate. The Forest Has Eyes, Part 3. It was that skeleton. Tim, of all of the people to see out here at this time, the stupid skeleton made me nearly jump out of my skin. But likewise, if he wanted to get the jump on me, he could have very well just grabbed a rock and bashed me in the head. I mean, he wasn't there before, and here he was, no noise, out of the blue. "Hey Tim," I said, going back to inspect the hat.
Nark!
I still didn't know who was initiating this puppet, and I still refused to believe that it was a living object. But, obviously, it wasn't hostile, so I decided to play along. I held up the hat by its visor. "You know what this is, Tim?" Silence. I inspected the hat further and found something written on the back.
Omen, nark!
I gazed up at my eggshell-colored friend. What? Omen? I looked back at the hat to see what I was looking at. On the inside of the back, written in permanent marker, was the word Danny. I showed the back to Tim. "Do you know a Danny by any chance?" Once again, I was met by stone-cold silence. Absolutely brilliant. Found an ominous omen of a child's hat with a name, and yet the only person I can ask right now is playing peekaboo 20 questions. It's so perfect. No signs of life. No hair, nothing. Almost like
Tim!
my face shot up to meet Tim's.
Grassman!
Grassman? I asked, forgetting how he had finally spoken directly to me. What was Grassman? There were no leaves or grass on the hat now that I looked, and there was grass and leaves everywhere. Literally. I mean, it's a forest, but there were none on the hat. Not a drop of filth at all. Who's Grassman? Tim once again answered with silence. Oh great. Back to Tiddlywinks. Forget this. I placed the hat in the pocket of my coat and hopped back on the ATV. Thanks, Tim. I turned back to the skeleton. And despite me now thinking my sanity was slipping away, I said, "I'm sorry for cracking you on the skull." And I stopped. "Huh, that's funny because you're a skeleton." I looked back again. Tim was gone. Of course he was. The drive back was quiet, thank God. Between something always poking its creepy head around a tree and sneaking up on me, having some peace and quiet was a good thing. That was until I reached the front gate.
"Look, man, I can't let you in. Wait until Dwight gets back and I'll help you."
Wait till who? Look, there's these ghouls out here, man. Let me in. It was the same guy as before, talking to John through the intercom's voice receiver.
"Just wait. Oh, there's Dwight now."
I parked the ATV in the center of the driveway in front of the gate. The man turned around. Hey, He snapped his fingers, trying to find my name, although I had never told him. Dwight. Yeah, Dwight, that's it. Sure it is. I thought I told you to head down the road. Oh, come on, man. It's getting dark, and it's spooky out here. Can I stay for the night? My next look read, "Are you kidding me?" The guy's face didn't read any real danger, but when you work in this job as long as I have, you can read a person's face. He was just short of me, probably 5'10-ish. Looked like a Minnesota trucker had decided to play Spetsnaz, but he seemed genuine. Finally, I agreed with a sigh. I'll talk to the boss. You can stay the night, but you're gonna stay inside of me at all times. The guy sighed with relief, and this was when I could read the genuineness in his relief, and that just about eliminated all doubts about him. Finally, I got the time to sit down and talk with him. His name is Isaac. He was a truck driver. See, I knew it. He lived in the New England area, which I had a suspicion, and his truck had a breakdown in Texas after a long haul. He decided to take up camping a few miles away while it was getting fixed. It turns out he'd been bumping around 3 states worth of forest before he found me. "Texas," I said in disbelief, swiveling slightly on the security room's computer chair. "Yep," he said, sitting in the corner. That was where he'd set up his tent. Indoors. I won't judge. It gives us both some privacy. I know what you're bound to say, or ask, or warn me. You're gonna say he's a shape-shifting witch doctor that you literally found in the woods, and you just said, "Yeah, sure, come in." And while the latter might be right, I don't know. Whether it's his almost transparent demeanor, or the fact that he could have stabbed me the 17 times I've turned my back to him, 2 of which while I've been writing these, it buries any doubts I have about him, at least for now. The following day it came out that Isaac had done some pirate radio type stuff, and surprisingly he was able to show me how to set the cameras onto swivel mode, and we set up the radios on a covert frequency. As the head of security and the sole member of the Kazamatha State Security Force, I had made the executive decision to let him pay off his stay with work. Things were going smoothly, until me and Isaac were sitting in the living room. The storm was hitting hard outside. So we let the security do the work and decided to bug out for the night. Turned on some basic cable. Both of us were watching the end credits of a movie roll. "God, that movie sucked," Isaac said, sitting back to the point where he was laying on the entirety of the couch. I said, "Make yourself at home," and he had taken it literally. Why should we stop watching C-list movies on Netflix? Not a single director on there knows how to make them. Hey. Just then, a large flurry of rain hit the windows, above the living room walls, in between the already hard rainfall. Hey, we could pull out a camera now. I mean, we'd make the best found footage short on the app. I laughed. It was funny because, well, it was true. You might be asking, why are you telling us this? It's because things went from around 0 to 60,000 as our laughter was cut off when John came walking in. More so, running into the living room. "Dwight, someone's calling for help." I bolted upright, as did Isaac. "What?" I said. "Yeah, it's a kid on the radio." For reference, what he's talking about is one of the motion trackers. While primarily they're around the wall, we place them periodically throughout the trail. How it works is, when one of them senses someone or something in the area, it records the footsteps in a sort of circle and records the sound for reference. Through the rainfall, we could hear the sounds of a child crying, screaming for help. It was at tracker number 6, the most northern tracker, near the northern arc of the trail. "Dude, you're not actually going up there?" Isaac asked futilely as I zipped up the waterproof overcoat. "If that's a kid out there." "Oh, come on, man." I zipped up the coat, and he met me face to face. "You've seen what's out there, but I've seen a lot more. The things out there, especially in this part, will lure you, imitate whatever. I've heard that kid's voice out there 6 times in a week, right outside my tent. You're walking into a trap." I had the kid's hat today. I looked him dead in the eye before chambering around into the Winchester. I clipped it on the belt with a load of magazines. You may have heard something else, but my gut tells me there's a good chance he's out there. And what if it's not a kid? Well, what if it is? Are you gonna be the one to tell his mother? What do you mean? What's out there? We both noticed John by the doorway. The kid was smart. He had a good head on his shoulders. But if I hadn't seen that look on his face, it was pure confusion. It's the same look I had while patrolling on night 1. Isaac sighed. "Are you telling me this kid has lived in the haunted woods for God knows how long, and he doesn't know what's outside?" "Isaac," I said, and the trucker quieted down before clearing his throat. "We'll tell you later, kid." I looked John dead in the eyes. "Your dad will tell you. Isaac, get on the radio." I grabbed the small radio clipped to my utility vest.
Testing, testing,
A voice came through the headset.
testing, testing.
The kid's continued cries for help sent a shiver down my spine. Looking out into the rainy, pitch-black night, sitting on that ATV with a rifle in a sling, and the only light coming from my glorified moped, it all made the pit in my stomach grow. But then it sank. Maybe it was knowing that there was a kid out there. Maybe it was, as I say, the 308 strapped to my back. Maybe it was knowing I was half a mile down a dirty path, the ATV half battling the dirt and mud for supremacy. My mind needed to be a shield right now. It needed to be forged out of solid iron. The giggling in the forest and the flashing shadows didn't help much.
Dwight, come in.
Isaac's voice bellowed from the radio. Dangerously, I pried my left hand from the handlebars. I'm here, Isaac. Nearing the bend now.
Dwight, the kid. Go one quick.
I still don't know, even after inspecting it, if it was the water, mud, or something else that made the radio go dead. But before I knew it, my hand was right back on the handlebar as the front tires came to a halt, nearly knocking me off the front. What the? I asked. The ATV was still on. I tried to reverse. The back tires tried, and the front tires did too, but they stopped. They were snagged on something. I looked. A dread fully overtook me. A line of barbed wire was stretched across the muddy path, and both front tires were completely snagged. And after trying to reverse, the back tires were now tangled in it too. I again tried to reverse, but to no avail. I gazed at the barbed wire, trying to see how long it was and where was the end. The end led off the road, and I saw that it was tied against two opposing trees. It was a setup. I should have listened to Isaac. I should have listened to the feeling in my gut, underneath all that sense of bravery and child rescue. I unstrapped the rifle and I sat half-mounted on the ATV, and I listened through the rain. It still sends shivers up my spine. There was giggling. The voices. You know what they say? They say, they're inhuman. You don't know until you know, until you've heard. There was a low-pitched, too low to be human, whispering and laughing. I wiped the rain out of my eyes, trying to get a good look, and I see yellow ahead. Yellow and red. It's the kid, is it? It looks like him, the back of a coat. The red pant leg, just barely out of range of my ATV's lights. Danny! I yelled at the top of my lungs, trying my best to get the kid's attention. And then, meters above what the child's height should be, I see a pair of eyes, in a color that I can't even describe. They were looking back at me. The kid, no. The decoy disappeared, and I was left with the voices growing and the eyes gazing. I yelled at it and fired off a shot, straight between the eyes. The hollow point round went soaring right through the air, as dark as oil. You could see the hot round go soaring and finally hit as it disappeared into the black between its eyes. It moved, like something that just got punted with a rock, but it didn't move. No, it more so shifted back after a light shove, and it continued to look. I worked the bolt, the spent casing falling out and hissing in the cold rain, and I fired again. The shot went flying, but again, whatever it was, maybe its skin was too thick. Maybe. I didn't have time to think, because the storm finally decided to crack lightning near us. I wish that it hadn't, because I got a good look at what I was shooting at. It was something. No man, woman, no child. It was nothing that anyone was ever meant to see. It turns out I was correct with my surveillance when I said that the flesh looked bloated. The nails were dark from broken blood vessels. The black rings, the milky white eyes with dilated pupils. I don't remember much else from the one shot I had at it. I was too fixated on the dozens behind it. I've been deployed. I've worn high-tech body armor and carried an M4. I know this setup. The kind meant to stop a convoy. It's meant for a target. It's an ambush. I don't care if you call me a wuss, security guard. I don't care if you think I'm a coward. I grabbed the ATV's keys and I ran. I booked it. I unholstered my pistol and I made Usain Bolt look out of shape. The sounds, the sounds. I could hear, I could tell that they were around me. Thankfully, I knew the path by now. I knew where I was going, but they were following me, toying with me. The snapping branches to my right, the low-pitched, deep giggles that sounded like they were right next to my face. I had to run. I was in free fall. I was out in the open, exposed. Why didn't I listen to? Then, there was a figure dead in front of me. It jumped out, trying to surprise me, just 5 meters ahead. There was no time for an accurate rifle shot. No time to even unsling it. Primal instinct took over. Flight couldn't get through, so fight did. And I laid what counted now, 9 rounds into the thing. It was smaller than the ones back there, much smaller. After it jolted from the majority of the 9mm cartridges, I threw my shoulder into it and pushed past it. The way the skin looked made you underestimate the density. My shoulder ached. It felt like I had just tried to ram a tree, but whether it was my shove or all the rounds I had fired into it, it stumbled off the path. I kept running, half hobbling as I hadn't caught my footing. I tried to round the bend, but I failed. And I tripped over a broken branch that had fallen from the rain. I tried to brace, to grab my rifle, but I just fell on top of it. A round went off, and it hit a tree to my left, causing bark to explode from its surface. My brain was yelling at me. It's funny what adrenaline and the human flight mode can do when working together. I blinked, mud had blinded me. My muscles and lungs started to ache as I stopped. I needed to get moving, but my eyes stung and my vision was gone. I blinked. Light was coming from somewhere, but I didn't know where. I tried to blink. My right eye came free from the mud, and then I saw him. The man from before, the Native American. He looked just like before. He looked right at me, blankly, from between 2 trees. I grunted. I didn't hear the things as loudly as before, but I had to get going. The rain aided me as I finally cleared my eyes somewhat, and I looked at him. He was gone. But I saw through where he stood, and I saw the compound walls. The gate was in the distance. I made a bolt for it. A run for your life. I clicked the remote on my belt, but it refused to work. The gate refused to open. I tried the vest radio and screamed, "Open it! Open it, Isaac! Open the gate!" I don't know if I knew it was more than likely broken. I didn't really care. I was nearing it, 50 meters, 35 meters. I could still hear something chasing me. I was surprised I even kept a hold on my gun as I ran. And then the gate started to open. Isaac stood there and fired something that I found out later to be a flare gun. The gate stopped after it opened 3 feet, and I dove in, face eating the dirt gravel mixture. I once again picked myself up as I heard Isaac say something along the lines of, "What is that?" I barely had time to listen to him. I pointed from the box mounted on the inside of the wall. "Hit me Lexus." I tried to talk, half spitting out dirt. "What? Stop speaking pig Latin, man. Hit the electrics," I said. Isaac caught on. He pulled open the box and pulled the switch where the wall segments met. There were spikes and bars connecting to the tops of them, allowing us to wrap the barbed wire around them. They sprang to life as electricity surged and zapped out. We didn't care to see if it amounted to anything. I ran inside with the redneck and collapsed against the side counter as my lungs felt like they were melting. "Dwight." John came downstairs. "What happened?" All of the running must have torn up my throat as I spat out some blood into the kitchen sink. I turned on the faucet and started washing it down. I shook my head. My brain was pounding. My legs hurt. Isaac sat the smoking flare gun on the counter as he went to the fridge and cracked it open to get an energy drink. He just saw some ghouls, Johnny. I tried to shake away the wear and tear that my body had on it now. John, I said, wiping my face and walking out of the kitchen, towards the stairs of the house leading up to the area around the living room. Go to your room. And for once he listened and nodded. Dad is going to tell me about what's outside. No, I said as I shook my head. He's gonna tell all of us. Isaac had to stop me from almost literally kicking open Theodore's door. My arms were too tired and the primal instinct again almost took over. I came to Theodore's office, muddy, wet, and it showed as he was more concerned with me stepping onto the carpet in front of his desk than whether I was all right. Jesus, Dwight. Care about a man's things for once. Hey, who's that? He said, pointing to Isaac, and I realized I had forgotten to tell him about my new friend. Isaac chimed up. Isaac, sir. Well, who let you in? Dwight. Well, I mean, we were, but rain, storm, a lost child. You never come out of this office, apparently, Isaac said as he scratched the back of his head and tried to come to my defense. Jesus, Nolan, I thought I paid you to. I slammed a hand down on the paperwork in front of him, leaning over the desk and glaring at him. Listen here. Dwight, those were… Shut up. I think I half spit the forest floor into his face. He got the message and quieted down. I just literally ran through the forest trying to save a missing kid, and it turns out the kid wasn't there at all. It's just some of whatever the things are that you've never told me about, and you're still refusing to. Isaac sniffed the air and looked at me. Man, did you just piss yourself? He asked. The look I gave back must have changed his mind. Yeah, sir, so sorry, man. Look, Theodore, I cannot protect you, your son, your land, or this house when all I'm given to go off of is a deer-stunning rifle, a pistol, and a whole lot of excuses. Dwight, I really don't. Oh yes, you do, mister. You didn't spend millions building a house here and not know about what lurks right under your nose. Come clean, or we're going to take a walk in the park with whatever's out there, and you can ask where Danny went. Danny? He didn't seem surprised entirely. More so caught off guard. Yeah, it's someone who seems to have gone missing in your woods. A missing kid? Yep. Isaac shook his head. Look, Dwight, I think this guy is probably hiding some sketchy stuff in his closet. I bet you $5 that Danny's underneath the house. All right. Just give me a second. Theodore took off his glasses and began rubbing his temples. Now, sadly, I've got no more time. Recording all of this entire mess, well, it took a lot of time. When I get back with patrolling, I'll fill you in on what the three of us talked about, but trust me, it's the reason that after the cleanup from the storm, we got funded several thousands of dollars to security up, and why we're driving into town tomorrow. We're gonna get to the bottom of this, and I will be back as soon as I can, hopefully a bit sooner than last time, and I'll tell you what we've found and what we've learned. Well, everyone, I hope you're enjoying this story. If you are, please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button, and of course, be sure to check back tomorrow for another story like this, and in a couple of days for entry 3 in this really, really cool story. Anyway, thanks so much for listening.